In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to place materials inside a texture file so that they line up with the 3D object. I'm going to show you 4 ways to do that, 3 overlays, and also a numbered checkerboard file. So to see how this all works, go to Photoshop and start that up. Create a new document, File New. And let's make a wine bottle. So go to Mesh from Preset, Wine Bottle, Create. I want to select the label, so I click on it once to select the bottle and one more time to select the label. Let's take a look at the label's diffuse texture file here. Click on that. Let's edit it. It matches the size of our document by default, and it's also a transparent layer. Okay, so now to position the material here inside this texture file so it shows up properly on the 3D object is kind of a trick. So the first step is to put the texture file and your object side by side. So go to Window, Arrange, 2 up vertical. So there's the 3D object and there's its texture file. And now let's see where to place the label. There's a cool trick to do this. Go up to 3D, Create Painting Overlay. There are 3 overlays, Wireframe, Shaded, and Normals. We'll take a look at all 3, but the go-to tool here is Wireframe. Click on that, and there you go. That is where any kind of a material you put inside this texture file will end up showing up over here. That little part from there to there will be from here to there. Let's see how that works. I'm going to go select that area, my selection tool here. I'll just select that area, pretty much staying right on the edges of that. Let's put a gradient there. Click on the gradient tool. Pick a gradient that's got all sorts of colors here. I'll go from top to bottom here, like that. There you go, so we have red on one side and orange on the other, like that. And now I don't even need to deselect this. I'm just going to go over here and click on the bottle, click on this layer to make it active, and lo and behold, there it is. Let's close this down so you can see it. So you can see exactly where it goes now. I click on U with the selection tool, rotate around, there we go. So you can see that these horizontal stripes become vertical stripes over here. All right, if I take the selection tool and go outside the boundaries of here, what's going to happen? Will it climb up the side of the bottle? It will not. It's only going to stay inside the area where the wireframe is. I'll show you what I mean. Go back over here to the side, make it active, get the selection tool. Select a wider area now, like that. And I'll do a different gradient so you can see there's a difference here. Click on this. Pick a different color, like, let's say this green and red one there. Do another one here, like that. Change it entirely. Click over here. You see it stays within the boundaries even though we went over the edges here. So now the issue is what's the top and what's the bottom? Where's the top here or the bottom? Well, I can sort of figure out where the top is by looking at this versus that. I see there's more space here where there isn't a wireframe, meaning that this part is going to be probably this glass area here and the cork. But that isn't always going to be the case. This isn't always going to be the top, and this isn't always going to be the bottom. Let's just check that out by using the type tool over here, making this active. Type tool, I'll just type something in here. And let's see where that ends up going. Click over here. So we can see that it's switching around from horizontal to vertical. I think we kind of knew that, right? Let's go back over here again. Do a little bit of Control T on you, and we'll rotate you so it rotates like that, let's say. Rotate it counterclockwise. Accept that, and see what happens over here. Upside down. Okay, so let's go back over here. Click on you, Control T again. So we now see that the top of this is to the right. Let me just click on you, accept that, and here we go. There it is. Now it's right side up. So now you get a sense at least of the orientation and how much space is taken up by that. Let's take a look at the glass over here for just a moment. Get the selection tool and click on U once. Click on the glass area twice. And it looks like we're just going to put some color here, but actually we're putting color here and down here. We can confirm that by taking a look at its diffuse texture. Click on that, make it active, go here, edit the texture. Let's take that texture and drag it over here like that. Now you have this and its texture right there. Let's take a look at its wireframe. Go 3D, Overlay, Wireframe. See there's this part, which has kind of a smooth look to it. These little triangles kind of represent how tightly packed things are. So right there, it's probably this little bend there. Then it smooths out as it goes across this edge. And it gets tighter here as it gets to the neck. And this down here would be the bottom over here. Interesting. Let's just take a quick look at it and see how that works. I'm going to select this guy on the left-hand side. And we'll just fill that up with dark purple or something like that. So I'm going to go Edit Fill. And we'll fill it with a color. Pick a nice dark purple color or something like that. And click OK. And then go over here and click that. And it's just the bottom. Notice the wireframe shows up here. That's because that wireframe is still active over here. Still visible. So the wireframe shows you there exactly where it's going to go. See the little thick lines there that all show up right there. The thick lines in the bottom that show up there. So there's actually 2 elements to it. You can put 2 different things, whatever you want. Even though it's one texture, you can have two elements to it. You don't have to necessarily have only one color for that whole texture. It gives you a little more leeway here. All right, let's take a look at something else. Go over here and make a new layer. Click on U so you can add a layer to this little group over there. Turn off the wine bottle. And let's create a soda can. Click on Mesh from Presets, Soda. Click Create. Close this down so you can see things. Now, soda can is kind of interesting. I'll click on this. It's interesting for a couple reasons. Because it has this top, which is round, whereas textures are square, rectangular. So we'll see how that works. And then let's take a look at this thing. It's got these rims and things on that. So how's that going to show up when we work on that? So I'm going to click on U to select the material here for the can, as opposed to the top, and go to its texture file there, its texture. Let's drag you over here so you can see it side by side. There you go. Let's click on U to make you active. And take a look at its wireframe. Go to 3D, wireframe. Now, what do you make of that? Kind of confusing. What we have here is a superfluous thing. This thing will not show up. I'll show you what I mean. I'll select this one on the right, like that. I'll fill that with a color, for example. Go to Edit Fill, and we'll fill it with a color. Let's go here, pick that color there. Okay. And I'll click over here and see what happens. Everything is filled. So why have this? Let's go over here and see if we can fill that with a different color. Selection tool again, select U, and we'll fill you with a color. Edit Fill. And we'll take a different color. Something obviously different. Click OK. And now I'll click over here and see where that green shows up. Selection tool, rotate you around, and nowhere to be found. There is no green. So sometimes you can't trust the little wireframe. It may be telling you something that just isn't present. It might be inside or something like that, but this is a mesh, and so you can't open it up. You can't use an internal constraint. So just be aware that sometimes you might be thrown off here. Another way to do this is to use what's called the normals or shaded. I want to show you how that works with the top. So I'm going to rotate you a little bit here and click on the top there. Let's take a look at its texture file. So I click over here, edit its texture like that. Let's drag you to the left and make you active. I'm going to take a look at its wireframe, 3D wireframe. And that's a little confusing. All those little triangles and stuff. Where does everything go? Not really totally clear where they go. I go to the right here. Another thing on the right too. How can this be three things? Or maybe it's actually this plus the bottom. Click on U one more time. And I begin to see how it works. See those triangles there in that dark line? What do we got here? Let's check on U. Also interesting. So let's see how this works over there with the wireframe. It's a little tricky to figure that out. So there's another way to do this. Let's take a look at 3D again. Create painting overlay. You've got another choice, shaded or normals. Shaded is not my favorite thing because it's not really obvious where things are with shaded, but I'll show it to you. There's shaded. Click over here, and now the shaded stuff will show up, but there's this gray. I'm guessing the gray is over here. Let's just shrink this down a bit so you can see everything. This gray here is probably there. And there's this line over here. I'm not sure where that is, right? But on here, there's some more gray here, so this gray could be down here too. It's not really clear where things are, so the shaded usually isn't much of a help to figure out where things go. Go back over here again. So I'm going to turn off shaded for the time being here. Well, let's try normals. Now, I've told you before that we weren't going to work with normals. It's kind of a high-level way of defining textures for an object. But normals is a good way to see how textures are applied. Usually normals are used when you work with 3D objects in a gaming environment. And we're not doing that here in Photoshop. But in any event, we can use normals to kind of get a sense where things go. So I got this layer selected there. We go to 3D. Click on normals this time. And it gives you this colorful look at how things go. Interesting. Now I click on U. And I have a much better idea where things go. Green, clearly, is the top there. We've got purple, and we've got this thing over here. Let's rotate you the other way now. Take a look over here. So this purple guy is this thing here. Get some more green here. I don't see any green down there, so let's rotate you back. That other green thing right there is the top. So here's the top to the left and the top to the right. Again, it's kind of confusing sometimes as to where things line up. This part here is the absolute top, and this part here is the rim around the top. So this helps you identify where things go. And we don't have to fill in these green triangles to make this work. I'll just show you what I mean. I'll take the selection tool here. I'll make a nice selection there. Going outside the boundaries here, it's perfectly okay to do that. And let's put just one color on top there. So I'll go to Edit Fill. And I'll pick a color here. Some color like silver. Click OK. And now click on this. There it is right there. And you can see this rim there that's still not showing up over here. So that rim is this thing over there. So you don't need to worry about fitting all those little teeth in your selection. All you need to do is just fill that whole area. And then the triangles here will take care of business when the texture is applied to this object. All right, let's take a look at one more thing. We're going to use a checkerboard to place something. And to do that, I want you to open up a new file. So go File, Open. I want you to go to the Photoshop projects inside the Working Files folder. Open up Bottle Silhouette PSD. And let's extrude this. Got this layer selected. Got the 3D panel. Click Extrusion. Click Create. Let's close you down for a second. Take a look at this. You know, it's going to be kind of a long thing like that. I want to wrap this thing around and make it a real bottle. To do that, I'd make sure it's active here. And I go to Deform. Now, if you haven't seen the Deform lesson, you might want to check it out. But we'll go to Deform here. I'm going to wrap it around horizontally down here. All the way around, 360 degrees. And I'm telling you, if you haven't seen this before, is that not cool? All the way around like that, we now have made a bottle. Click on you and drag it like that. That's a little dimple on top, so let's just reduce the extrusion a bit. Go up here and make the extrusion a little bit less deep. Make it the original bottle size like that. Takes the dimple away. All right, now let's rotate you back. And click on you and take a look at the 3D panel. You see there are all these different materials here, but only one will show up. You've got the front inflation, the back inflation, the front bevel, back bevel. You can't see those because they're tucked away inside here because we wrapped it around in itself. But we do have the extrusion there. So let's take a look at its diffuse texture file. Click on that, edit that, drag you over to the left here like that, and close you down. And I'm going to go over here and take a look at its wireframe. I'm going to go to 3D, hitting overlay wireframe, and wow. What is all that all about? I'll do a Control-Command-minus so you can see everything. Where do you even begin to figure out where things go there? It's a little confusing, right? I mean, I don't know where the top or the bottom is, and maybe it wraps around the same way the soda can did, so this is not really that helpful. We can do some experimentation to figure it out, but it might be easier to use one other method. I'm going to show you kind of a cool way to do that. So click on this guy to make it active. We're going to change its diffuse texture file. So let's go back up here to diffuse, open this thing up, and replace texture like that. I want you to go to the Photoshop Projects folder and open up Checkerboard Numbers PSD. We're going to replace the current texture file with this one here. And now, look at that. You can sort of see where things go. This texture file is now superfluous. We can delete it, clicking the X. Let's open up this texture file now. Go over here and edit it. Drag it to the left here so you can see it as well, side by side. And now it's kind of making sense here. We got all the 4s here. They're the 4s. Right along there, and the 3s. Let's say if we want our label to go from right about there, let's say, down to the bottom here. Let's click on you, see where it goes down here, 5, and that would be 6 there, presumably. So we can go down to where the number 5s are, right about there, and then rotate you back now to, let's say, right where the 3s are. So right about from here to there would be this label area. Let's go over to here then, get the selection tool. From right about here to right about there or so would fill this area here. Let's fill that up by opening up a new layer over here. Go get the gradient tool like so, and get a different color gradient here. And we'll fill that in like so. There you go. And now click over here. Boom. There we are. We filled in from there to there. You can see from left to right, top to bottom. Click over here once with the selection tool. Rotate you up like so. You can see it goes down right about there. And now if I want to fill up the rest of these guys, I can fill them up again the same kind of way. I can see that H2 down to part of H3. So right here, all the 2s down to here would be there, and the top here would be 1, and the very bottom would be the 6s down there. And the rest of the stuff is superfluous. It's not included inside this texture. It's not even an issue here. So basically we go from 6 to there, and all the rest of the stuff is empty. So there you go. That's 4 different methods that show you how to place materials inside texture files so that they line up properly on your 3D objects.